Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to make this a two-part video. Should we refinance one of the properties behind us, which is on this row of terraces here? We purchased it for 120 just over 2.5 years ago. It's now comfortably valued at easily 160. So again, there's definitely equity in it. I'm just going to talk about, obviously, what the factors are that you should be considering when you refinance. When should you refinance? Should you pull money out before your early redemption? What are you likely to do with the money? So obviously I'll talk about that next, but yeah, like I said, it's on this row of properties here. Purchased it for 120 a couple of years ago. It's now comfortably worth 160, and I'll run through some of the thinking that should obviously influence you and your decision when it comes to refinancing. Good luck. See you on the other side. So, should we refinance that property? So again, I'm just obviously looking at the row of terraces now. We purchased it for 120, approximately, I think it was about 2023, something like that. It's now, like I said, comfortably worth 160. It was up at the time for 145, then it dropped to 140. I think at least one sale fell through. We purchased from that agent before. So obviously I went to view the property, and then we managed to secure it at 120, which was a good price. We knew at the time though it wasn't a true contender for BRRR. It didn't need everything ripping out and starting again. But we knew that obviously the money would be best invested in that property rather than sat in any bank or anything like that. So the things that we need to look at now, if you're taking your steps towards becoming a black belt investor and so on, and having that correct mindset, you should always be looking at it through the lens of, what would a black belt investor do? So the first things we need to look at there, what's the return on capital employed at the moment? How much money have we got tied up in that property? Now, obviously I don't know the spreadsheet off the top of my head there, but if we secured it for 120, obviously you've then got your 25% deposit in that, which was about 30,000, something like that. But then they also retained some money as well. So I think we needed to put in an extra 6, 7, maybe 7.5 on top of that. So it's got about 37 in there at the moment. That's not including any stamp duty. But now this is the big thing, okay? This is a decision. We've spent about 8,000 or 9,000 on it last year, middle of the year and so on, just sorting out some damp works and that type of thing. So we've then probably got about 45,000 of our own money still left in that property. Now, the good thing about that though is obviously the cash flow on the property is quite good compared to some of the other obviously 2-bed properties that we have in our portfolio. But the bad thing is that we've got a lot of money tied up in that as well. So again, things that you need to be deciding are, whereabouts are you in your investment journey? Are you looking to just invest some of the capital from your businesses, obviously into property, into bricks and mortar? Are you looking for something to provide you with very high levels of cash flow each and every month? Because if it's a 2-bed terrace like that, they're boring, they're repeatable, but they're very reliable and most of the time very stable. When you're going for your HMOs, yes, of course, you're going to have a higher cash flow. However, you're going to have more headache and so on, especially if you're managing them on your own, which I never recommend to any of my mentees that they do. It is way too much headache. So yeah, the return on capital employed at the moment is, I just did some rough maths. It's probably about 10.5, 10.7% at the moment there. So again, the money that we've got in is giving us a return of about just over 10%, which is fantastic. Now, if you've been watching my channel a while, you've been watching videos as well, you'll know that I'm not one of these people who's all hype and all this type of stuff, financial freedom in 30, 60, 90 days and all that nonsense. If you've got a property that's yielding 10, cash on cash return on capital employed of 10% each year, that's fantastic, okay? So, I mean, obviously when you study like the greats, the Warren Buffetts and all that type of stuff, they're always going for 6 and 8%, and obviously there's going to be, some outliers in there, but if you're getting a return of 8% and above on property, well done, keep it up, okay? It's steady, it's reliable, it's predictable, and hopefully, depending on whereabouts we're in the property cycle, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it'll be worth far more than it is now. So yeah, what's your loan to value? What will it go? What is it currently? And then what will it go up to? Are you going to stretch it to 85%? Which I never personally recommend, because you don't want to be overgearing yourself. Is it going to be 80%, or is it just going to be the old classic 75%? So again, you'd need to know what your loan to value currently is. What would it then go up to? Spread across your portfolio, what does that take you up to there as well? Now again, it's not that, obviously, my mentees understand this. I'm not trying to teach property. We try to help mentees understand the mindset and the discipline and get a little bit more clarity, get a little bit more judgment on what they need to be considering when it comes to, in this instance, refinancing. What about, say, in your investment journey? Are you looking to really ratchet things up? Are you looking to just slowly offload, over the next few years and so on? Are you just looking to acquire one or two more and then that's it? So again, that's another factor you need to consider. The cash flow, obviously, unless you've got a substantial increase in rent, the cash flow will then drop. So I think that at the moment, that might be cash flow in about 420, 430. It's a very good cash flow to say that it's a 2-bed terraced. However, let's remember that's because it's got a lot of our money tied up in that. As soon as you pull out most of your money, the cash flow is then going to dwindle. But if you're only looking at the cash flow metric as a determinant to whether or not you're going to refinance, then really it's a little bit short-sighted. You need to think to yourself, right, well, if I can now release 20, 25, 30, however many thousands of pounds, what can I then do with that extra pot of money? One thing that I would never do, and again, anybody that's watching this, especially my mentees, you're not going to go out and blow it all on some sort of liability, okay? Of course, if you wish, treat yourself, allocate a little portion of it, but that money really should be going towards reinvestment, or maybe reinvesting into your business, whatever it is, but it should be going towards something, putting it in another vehicle that again will compound and bring in more returns, really. So with that now at the moment, and again, I've probably written about this on some of my blogs, maybe even some of the essays that I do once a month and so on. Where are we now in the property cycle? If we manage to pull out, which we'd probably be able to pull out, if we refinance it at 160, the loan to value then would be 120. So the mortgage lender would give us 120, pay off probably the existing 85 on there. So that's 95, 105. So you might be able to pull out 30, 35. Does that then go towards another deposit? If so, in this area, what's it likely to be purchasing? Like I said, if that's going for 160, and there's other ones round here, there's one actually on this street behind me. It was very, very high. It was up for 185. I didn't think they'd sell it at that. It then dropped down to 180 about 2 or 3 months after it'd been on. Then it dropped down to 175, and I think then it ended up closing at about 176, 177, according to the agent. Obviously, I don't know that for certain. So yeah, make sure you keep calm, have a plan, keep disciplined. But one of the first things you should be determining is, am I going to refinance it? Yes, it's due. When I pull that money out, where is that money going? Okay, I wouldn't just pull it out, definitely not just to sit in a bank account because you like looking at the numbers all the time, okay, and you like that liquidity. Yeah, we should have some liquid capital, of course, but obviously cash on account or cash in the bank, inflation is just going to be eating it away all the time, okay? So if you pull out, obviously, 30,000 from that, you're going to lose 4% every year. 4% might not be a lot, but I'd rather have it in that where it's growing and obviously edging against inflation. So again, some of the things that you may have written down from this: what's the current loan to value? What's the loan to value going to go up to? Am I over gearing across all the rest of my portfolio? Can I handle that drop in cash flow, which you probably can? When I do pull the money out, what am I then going to do with that money? So always look at it through the eyes of, this isn't a short-term fix. I'm not just getting the money to obviously go and blow on a fancy car or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with fancy cars if you like them, but what am I actually doing? Am I looking for that long term? Am I going to delay that gratification? Am I going to think, do you know what, in 5-10 years time I'll be glad that I refinanced that and invested it into another property because now my property portfolio keep increasing value? Or is it a little bit too risky for me? Do I want to make sure that I just keep it as it is? However, when that product ends though, be aware that when you're tied in for 3 or 5 years, whatever product, it's then going to jump up. So you might need to speak to your broker and say, listen, I don't want to refinance, but I do want a product transfer. Because if you stay with the same lender, your broker should easily just be able to put you onto another product where it's a very, very similar interest rate rather than the normal plus 3% above what you're currently paying. I hope that helped a few people. Keep taking steps further forward, keep investing, but again, have that plan and make sure you treat it like that black belt journey, okay? It's not just taking one step further forward and then that's it. You've got to make sure that you keep going all the time and learning to invest in that property. Good luck. Check out the link in one of the pinned comments. Check out my website, dervishdervish.com. Have a look around there as well. And yeah, all the best. Good luck.